Hey, Holy Business. Over the next few weeks, we're going to take a look at what every great CEO, owner, and pastor should love: casting vision. Stephen Covey has been quoted as saying, "All things are created twice." This is totally what happens in vision casting. God plants a vision to you and in your team, but to protect and ensure it becomes something, you have to write it down, communicate it, and communicate it, and communicate it. Vision should be the driver for the methods, programs, and even job descriptions of your church. It should also be rooted in biblical truth. And this includes the way we approach it for our businesses. Vision should drive everything we do and our decision-making as we grow. Your vision should be everywhere. Everything your team pursues, every paycheck written, every role created, task done, every department that you're building and product you're launching should contribute to the vision. This thereby supports the vision and keeps your team running in a very narrow but effective lane. Vision should be the starting point for job descriptions, budget discussions. And why is that? That sounds very outlandish to some people, a little too squishy, if you will. But everyone should know, no matter how seemingly small the task or the item, that in the world's eyes, everything happens in a single day, creates far-reaching impact. Let me say that again, better than I just did. We need vision because we need to know where we're hoping to go. And if the vision and achieving that vision is the goal, then we should be able to clearly let go and define the things that don't fit into the parameters of that vision, or we need to look at altering the vision. There's a couple ways that we can get here. So you're probably saying you've talked about vision a lot. A lot of your interviews have talked about vision. So I get it. I need to have a vision. I had to have a vision to get to where I am, though. So I do have one. So let's talk about establishing that vision. It's one thing to have one. And if you don't have one, message me and our team will reach out and we will help you get one. We actually have a free resource for church teams to use as a workshop to develop vision, and we'll be happy to modify it for your team as well and send it over. But in establishing the vision, so let's say you've written that statement, you've got it on a poster, or maybe you send it out in an email, it's on a signature line or on the top of the job descriptions. But how are you establishing it? How does it go from being a sentence that's just words to this is how we define everything, including how we look at the performance of our team? So in establishing vision, there's a couple things you need to do. One, you need to take the time to formulate the idea or concept into a concise thought and sentence structure to share. So when you're a startup, and you have a vision, you have an idea, you talk clearly about it. You probably even have thought about it and obsessed over it so much that you have this beautiful elevator pitch. It still is not a duplicatable sentence thought that your team can memorize and use going forward, especially when you start to build departments. So you need to take the time, and this is a great cross-functional collaboration activity, is to take a couple of your key Gen 1 people and build this vision out of what you've all known to be true from the beginning. But as you hire new people, they don't know that inherently, and they weren't there for the sleepless nights or the brainstorming sessions or the pizza spreadsheeting late nights that you didn't know if you'd survive. They didn't experience that. So they don't know the vision from its formulation, which means you need to make it approachable and memorable for them. So once you have a sentence, you sat down in a room, you figured out what that vision is. Once you have that, what do you do with it? Because just having that is not going to help it sink in. As a CEO or an owner, your job is to continue to cast vision. And some of the best leaders, I heard Patrick Lencioni give a talk on this one time, the job as the CEO is sometimes you feel you're almost like a broken record, but you're going out and casting vision and recasting vision and recasting vision. And that is what needs to happen with this vision statement. You've got to communicate it. Once the sentence structure is in place, that's where, sure, posters come in, taglines come in. It should be on the top of every job description. But how else can you communicate it? You need to talk about it in meetings. You need to have your departmental leaders understand that they need to talk about it in meetings. And you need to start to use the language from it to apply to other things. If you use the word community, then community should be something you use in your discussions of feedback, whether they were doing things to foster community or if they were destroying community by not replying to emails or whatever it is. You need to incorporate the language from your vision into the day-to-day of your operations. Next, you need to leverage that vision. Vision can do a lot for you by helping your team make better decisions and streamline the ideas that come across your desk or get flung at the wall like spaghetti when you're growing. So what do I mean by that? Building job descriptions, reviews, interview questions, initiatives, and even recognition and PR pieces from the language used in the vision create a vernacular for your team. So when you are giving someone feedback, maybe they're finishing an introductory period, or you do quarterly reviews or annual reviews, or however you structure them, the language should come out of that vision statement. And what they do should support the vision of the company. Also, all departmental growth, product offerings, divisional change should go through the lens of vision. One time I was working with an organization and it was a church, and the church had an idea that they had seen another church doing, and they really were excited about this event they wanted to do. It seemed really fun. They thought it would engage a lot of people in the community, but that church's vision said that they were looking for the lost, and they wanted to invest everything they could into reaching people who were not regularly inside the walls of the church. If that is the case, then there needs to be a cap on how much financially is invested in something that isn't going to reach people who are outside of the walls of that church versus something that will reach the entire community. Those are the kind of decisions vision can help your team see more clearly. There are also entire companies who have taken on deadweight projects that have nothing to do with supporting their vision. And you need to think about, if we launch this product, is it a great product? It sounds like a good idea, but it's completely outside of the scope of our vision that we've ever had. That needs to be a conscious conversation, because if it is, you can end up taking away from the energy you'd want to support your ultimate goal that you originally started with. Or you have the conversation that maybe that goal has changed. The biggest thing you need to do with vision is you need to model it. And that is where things go from communication to implementation and cementing in your team's mind. It is very easy for management, after writing these things, to find exceptions or to find something that they deem a pet project or something they're passionate about. And we might need to bend these rules to make it fit. So if you do that, you're hurting your own vision, and the team will begin to feel like there is disillusionment. There's a lack of fidelity in this vision. And if you do that, you begin to lose the core of your identity and your cultural integrity. So it's important that if you're a leader and you have decided on it, that you stick to your own guns, which means typically with visionary people, you're ticked off about your own rules at some point. And that's okay. The team doesn't need to see your emotions, but they need to know that you're going to play within the rules, even if it's something that you fell in love with. So keep those things in mind when it comes to vision. When you establish vision with a team that's already functioning, the other thing you want to do is give grace for that vision. So great vision and vision casting, especially when you have a new statement or a new initiative, is a disruptor. So as you communicate that across teams and start saying no to things, this is creating a disruption. So you need to consider that and change, and we need to give grace to the staff that are impacted. Change is hard for roughly 2/3 of the population. So if those 2/3 are on your teams, which they make up the bulk of all of our teams, then we need to be prepared that there will be some whiplash and there will take time for adapting on the team. The final thing you want to do with vision casting that can help you really win with your teams is whenever you're rolling out vision or going back to vision, maybe you're a couple degrees off at this point and you're recasting, is to incentivize vision. Incentivizing vision means come up with a recognition program for your team, some sort of incentive to recognize those who are really driving ideas, innovation, and delivery inside the vision, things that will impact and move the needle the furthest forward. And those become your cheerleaders, your celebrators, and it also creates a positive spin on something that can be somewhat jarring for your team and your client base if you're not careful through their execution. So if you incentivize your team on vision, then they're going to run after that vision harder, even if maybe they were not super excited about it in the first place. And your client base is not going to hear negative impact from the team. And we all have one person on the team who might say too much to a client. So just think about those things when it goes into not just writing the vision, but also implementing the vision, and then talk about it often. Connect every little thing you do to it. The simplest whys, being connected to vision, create passion in your team and commitment over compliance. There are a laundry list of companies that have strayed from their vision and had to get back, and sometimes at major costs. One of the first that comes to mind is Charles Schwab. They actually, to get back on course because they had become so disconnected from their client base as they grew, they brought Charles Schwab himself back to recast the vision, to get back to center and to get back on course. The similar thing happened with Starbucks. Starbucks, for all of its growth, had started to lose culture, which was one of the biggest things it was built on. If you've been to a Starbucks training, you know they talk about their personal stories, the way they care for their customers, the way they interact with their team. And that piece was being lost. So here we go, another story where the CEO is brought back to get them back on track. And that's exactly what happened with Howard Schultz. He came back, and I think it was in 2008. Because he had had an 8-year absence as CEO, and there was an overly ambitious expansion effort, which if you've been a season of growth, you just think more is more sometimes, and then there's a reset. But that expense for the growth was the unique customer experience that had always distinguished them. And if you don't know, in their trainings, they tell stories of these personal interactions where they've saved people's lives just by making them feel seen that day. It is a very passionate plea from day one for their teams to care and see their customers. And that got lost in this growth plan. So Howard Schultz comes back out of retirement to recenter the vision. These things can cause major upheaval in your company and major costs for your team. So that is why when you write the vision, taking the time to implement it and not just saying writing a sentence is enough can save you and help you continue to grow on the trajectory you planned. It also protects you from things like Starbucks, like getting ahead of yourself in expansion. Target's another one. They expanded into Canada. They weren't ready for the supply chain problems. And what do we know about that? They pulled completely out. Losing vision can create missteps that are extremely costly. Filtering everything through the vision and ensuring that you are moving at a pace that supports, celebrates, and enhances that goal you're running towards can protect you from both loss from a profit perspective and also from major turnover and client mistrust. So today, this short little plea is about vision. And we're going to be talking to some people who have experienced vision changes, who have experienced a lack of vision clarity, and the frustrations that come from that, as well as the overcoming when you do it right or you go back and reset. So join us the next couple of episodes. But if you haven't taken the time to do this, I strongly encourage you. Your team, even if you're a Gen 1 startup, they're all learning to spin ideas off of you, and they're watching your visionary leadership. And not all of them are equipped to do that or in the right seat on the bus to do that. So you could find yourself, as you begin to establish roles, needing to cut back, and this can kill your team's morale. When, if you have a vision, you build off that vision and you build within that vision, you can protect yourself from some of those sidesteps, missteps, and back steps that are required in the future. So go out, love your team, run on vision, write a vision, make it plain. You know, scripture talks about it a little bit. It's a little bit biblical. And share that vision to protect what you're building and what you've been pouring your blood, sweat, and tears into. We'll see you next week.